Now I have a physical, a double, just like me. And what happens from this booth, this isolated booth, to where the experiment takes place, I observe him, which is created a physical, and he does all the things I want done. In other words, he is there in a flash.
In other words, the experiment we're going to see, during that experiment, your body will remain in this isolation box.
That's right.
But your mind will be about 5 rooms from here.
Yes, but even more, I call it the Alex 2. He is actually physically there, and I see him from here.
You do?
Yes.
But no one else in that room?
No one else. This is the next step in their experiment, where they're going to show that it can be done through a special camera, which we hope to put together. But there is what is important here is that there is something physical in the other room, which is 5 doors away from here, about 50 feet.
Now, what happens in the spot where this consciousness is being projected?
Well, what happens is first it is registered on a strain gauge, which then appears on the EEG, and at the same time, I'm able to read targets that they have for me in front of me. And through that, they know that I'm physically present, because the targets are an optical illusion.
Can you share with us some of the experiences you've had? You've been going through these experiments for 10 years now.
I started out at the age of 5, when I saw my first separation at the age of 5, and it intrigued me to wonder what this was all about. And then at the age of 9 years old, I had an operation, and I had an out-of-body experience. It means I saw myself on the operating table, but then everything disappeared, and I went into another dimension, which was so beautiful. It was energy. And this energy was coming towards me, just filling me up. And as I looked at myself, it looked like a white robe. And I saw people around me. I saw my father with, not my father, my grandfather, whom I had never seen, and some other people. And suddenly, I became all my life, and it was a very, very beautiful experience. And I realized there had to be something to it. And I never spoke about it except to my parents, who were psychic. And all they said, you've been gifted, something very special happened to you. And from that day on, I never feared death. But then when religion began to preach brimstone and fire, and I couldn't buy it. So through that, and through several near-death experiences, and the death of my brother, one of my seventh brother, all of that said, there's a journey you have to take, a journey that you have to reveal to people, that there is life after death.
You have had a near-death experience.
I've had 4 near-death experiences.
Describe one.
The most beautiful one was I think the most fullest one was the last experience that I had. I had 105 temperature, and I saw myself on the table, and suddenly my outer body, there was a separation of energy, consciousness, and I saw my body on the table. And suddenly, I saw a line which was dark, and I wanted to get through that line to the other side. It was beautiful to the other side, and there were people still on this side of the line. I tried to get over. That part I don't understand. And suddenly, I find myself on the other side, and I look at myself, and I could touch myself, and I was just as physical as I am now. And all of a sudden, I saw my parents who had died, and friends and everything else, and the energy and the light, I have to say, came pouring inside of me, and I looked at myself, and there I was, like a white robe, and I relived my life. It was the most beautiful moment in my whole life. I was one with the universe, and I just didn't want to come back. And I went beyond the near-death experience, because I saw the future of my own life, which I don't remember, and that's when I decided that I had to come back. And it was just beautiful.
Is the mind so powerful that it can survive at the moment of death?
To me, yes. It's so powerful because it needs, in itself, it needs to survive. That's the way I feel, as much as it needs to think, as much as we need to learn. And to me, I think we're just going back to the fulfillment of what mankind was at the very beginning. So not something that we've lost, but a transition that we've been going through and returning to immortality.
Alex, There are many viewers, I'm sure, who are very skeptical, many who would say this is a lot of malarkey. I mean, how do you get anyone to understand that what you're saying is not fantasy, but reality?
Well, there are two things here. My near-death experiences, I think anyone who had gone through one will share the experience, and that you can't give to anybody. I wish I could. But I think the work that we're doing here under the scientific eye, and that we're able to relate or correlate what happens at least in the beginning of the near-death experience, that there is a separation, I think that people will see much more actual and much more factual until they have their own experience. But I think the work that we're being done and the work that's being reported by medical doctors, because there's so many new books out now where people have said that they have separated themselves and had seen themselves on the operating table or trying to be revived and so forth. So I think that now that other disciplines like physics, medicine, psychology, all of them are agreeing that it's no longer a fantasy, that a real experience takes place and that we have to. And to me, it is a religious experience. Perhaps more than a religious, I think a spiritual experience, because none of my religious training took me into this dimension. No, it was brimstone and fire and, you're going to burn in hell. But there's nothing of that. It's a joyful experience. It's so beautiful that we should wait for it with great joy.
You claim that after 10 years of experimentation, you have absolutely determined that there are out-of-body experiences. What can be done with this knowledge?
Well, the first knowledge, I think we are sharing our knowledge with other disciplines so that they can know where to go from there in the medical work, the physics and so forth. I think that's one of the great things when other disciplines can join us. And secondly, it's giving spirituality and religion and philosophy a new dimension also, a new thought of what has passed gone, especially coming from the laboratory work. And thirdly, I think that that what different people are using this, like helping the police solve murder cases, lost people, find lost cities, archaeological work, and even people who are like myself with diagnosed cases, and even more. Something I've very rarely spoken about, where I've touched people who had cancer, like pituitary gland, and it disappeared. So the energy is there, and it's a physical energy, but it's a spiritual energy.
How do you explain all of this?
I explain it, well, to some people it would be very hard, that I would say I'm in the heart of God. And we all are, and we haven't seen it. I'm not saying fully, but I've touched something, or someone has touched me, and somebody loves me.
And is harnessing that energy through your mind?
Through my mind. Because the mind, to me, is spiritual, and once you get into that spiritual dimension, it's something you can't speak about. It's something that you have to experience. And to be able to bring that, or to show that it can be done, then this universe, through meditation, through other means, will be able to work it to, bring our minds to a higher degree where we can bring peace and wisdom. Everybody says bring love, but we have to bring wisdom before love.
We're talking, the thesis of our whole thing here is the power within. Just like to ask you for briefly if you would relate to that. I'm talking the power within, with dealing with out-of-body experiences. What the harnessing of that power? Just kind of a statement from you.
Well, once we harness that power, we'll be able to do everything we want to do without being tied down to this area.
About harnessing the power of the mind.
The power of the mind.
I'm just trying to get a full statement from you.
That's right. What I'm saying is that what would happen would be I would be able to move this body to another place without taking an airplane. In other words, we could do a lot of things. We could transform this body, and mankind would not have to die.
That's all very hard to comprehend for me and for an audience. I'd like you to pick up on that again, Alex, and you do.
Well, all right.
I'm looking for a full sentence.
Okay. Let's say that if we can look at this power like electricity, which we don't know what it is, and if we can harness it like electricity, then look at everything that electricity has done. We will do that 1,000,000 times more, because the power that we have is stronger than any power there is.
By harnessing the power of our own minds.
That's right.
What do you project to be done in the future?
In the future, I believe that mankind will become immortal.
How?
By letting this energy take over the matter and transforming it.
In other words, long after death, our minds will survive.
Survive. And while we are alive, I believe we're going to come to that point where we won't have to die. That our mind will take over the body and heal it forever. In other words, the mind will heal the body and mankind will not have to die. Because our greatest crutch and our greatest fear is maybe there's nothing on the other side. We don't know. No matter how many test tubes we try and how many experiments, we don't have the proof. What we're touching here is a direction, but not the whole universe will believe it until you experience it. And I believe that the power of the mind is a personal experience.
While we were taping in this isolation box, some strange things happened involving our crew. For one thing, a red light started flashing on our camera. Then we saw kind of a jumping of our picture where it was out of sync. Then moments later, our beeper went off and no one was calling us. To what would you attribute that?
Well, if I go back to the past and so, some of the things that have happened, there was a point when my energy is very, very high, and it happened here. Working with the crew, the positiveness and the excitement that I wanted to perform to show what was going on. By perform, really showing the interior that was happening. So my energy was very, very high, and the light that you were shining on me, I can absorb light, even the sun into my eyes. Everything combined, which I've seen before, caused things to trigger off and things to happen.
Have you ever experienced anything like this before?
Yes, I have. One time we were doing another television show, and they weren't able to, when they developed the film to show it, I was in it, was not in it, only my voice. And I've triggered off.
There was no image at all?
No image whatsoever. And when they showed it on television, they said, there's nothing wrong with your TV. He told us we wouldn't be able to film him in, and they superimposed the picture, and they just let the conversation go.
Alex, tell us briefly, what are we about to see in this experiment?
In this experiment, I will be projecting my consciousness, Alex 2, 50 feet away, into a strain gauge box which will measure my physical presence. At the same time, I will be reading targets that they will select randomly by push button, which I will be reading to show that I'm actually there. In these two facets, it will show you how I leave my body and what can be done with it. And therefore, it will be registered on the EEG as we go along.
When Alex 2 is projected 50 feet from here, what is Alex 1 doing in this chamber?
Alex 1 is observing what is taking place and reading what's going on. He will describe what's taking place in the 50 feet away. I actually see the other room, and it's all open to me from here.
No. Have you seen any of the equipment that's in there, or what's going to be projected?
No, I have not. I know the experiment itself. I know that there's a wheel with 4 colors on it. They will project a series of pictures on there. I know what the pictures are. In other words, by saying that I know what the pictures are, there are 5 pictures that they will randomly show on that. But by pressing a button, everything interlocks, so I don't know what interlocks, and that's what is the